We did it. Our dynasty is secure now.
It's everything I ever wanted.
A family.
The night Emma Collins found out she was pregnant, she was carrying a tray of half-finished drinks and trying not to cry in the back hallway of the restaurant. At 24, Emma worked double shifts as a waitress in a busy downtown Chicago diner. Her apartment was tiny, her bank account nearly empty, and her life carefully planned around survival. The last thing she expected was two pink lines staring back at her from a pharmacy test she'd taken during her break. Her hands trembled so badly she had to sit on the cold tile floor. The father wasn't just any man. He was Daniel Hayes, the man who owned the very building she worked in, a billionaire CEO whose name appeared regularly in business magazines. They had met 3 months earlier when Daniel began visiting the diner late at night after long meetings. He didn't act like a powerful executive. He sat in the corner booth, ordered black coffee, and asked Emma about her day as if it actually mattered. Their conversations grew into something warmer, quieter, and eventually into a brief, secret relationship neither of them expected. Emma ended it first, convinced that someone like him could never truly fit into her world. She never told him she'd fallen in love. Now she was pregnant and terrified. Emma kept the pregnancy a secret. She bought loose uniforms to hide her growing belly, and picked up extra shifts to save money. Every night, she told herself she'd figure it out alone. Daniel had his own glamorous life. He didn't need the complication of a waitress carrying his child. But secrets have a way of surfacing. One rainy evening, nearly 6 months later, Daniel walked into the diner again. Emma hadn't seen him in weeks, and the sight of him standing in the doorway, soaked and searching the room, made her heart stop. She tried to avoid his gaze, but he spotted her instantly. "Emma," he said softly when she approached his table. His eyes dropped to her stomach, now impossible to hide. "Are you pregnant?" Her throat tightened. "Yes." Silence stretched between them, filled only by the clatter of dishes and distant chatter. Emma braced herself for anger or disappointment. Instead, Daniel stood up so quickly his chair scraped the floor. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, his voice shaking, not with fury but with hurt. "I didn't want to trap you," she whispered. "You have a life, Daniel. A huge company. I'm just me." He stared at her for a long moment before gently taking her hand. "You're not just anything. And that child is mine too." That night, Daniel drove her home and saw the cracked walls, the broken heater, and the mattress on the floor. He didn't say anything, but his jaw clenched as he took it all in. The next morning, Emma woke to a text from him asking her to meet. He didn't offer money like she feared. Instead, he said, "I want to be there, for you and the baby. Not because I have to, but because I want to." At first, Emma resisted. She was used to fighting her own battles, and didn't trust how quickly her life was changing. But Daniel was patient. He drove her to doctor's appointments, brought her groceries when she was too sick to work, and listened when she talked about her fears late at night. He never pushed, never treated her like a burden. As her belly grew, so did his presence in her life. He made sure she moved into a safer apartment, one close to the hospital. When she worried about accepting too much from him, he simply said, "You're carrying our child. Let me take care of you." For the first time in years, Emma allowed herself to rest. When their son Noah was born on a quiet winter morning, Daniel was the first to hold him after the nurses cleaned him up. The powerful CEO who commanded boardrooms and signed billion-dollar deals stood there with tears running down his face, whispering, "Hey there, little guy." Emma watched from her hospital bed, exhausted but overwhelmed with a warmth she'd never known. In that moment, Daniel didn't look like a billionaire. He looked like a man who had just found the most important thing in his life. True to his word, he spoiled them, not with flashy gifts alone, but with time, patience, and love. He learned how to change diapers, how to rock Noah to sleep at 3 a.m., and how to cook simple meals when Emma was too tired. He kept photos of his son on his office desk and left meetings early to attend pediatric appointments. People in his corporate circle whispered about the waitress who had his child, but Daniel never hid them. At a company gala months later, he arrived with Emma on his arm and introduced her proudly. "This is Emma," he said to his colleagues. "And she's the mother of my son." Emma's cheeks burned with nervousness, but Daniel's steady hand in hers gave her courage. For the first time, she didn't feel small in a room full of powerful people. Their relationship wasn't perfect. They argued about schedules, about Emma wanting to return to work, about Daniel's constant travel. But they faced every problem together, no longer strangers from different worlds, but partners learning to build a shared life. Years later, Emma would often think back to that night in the diner hallway when she'd cried over a pregnancy test, convinced her future was falling apart. She couldn't have imagined the home she now lived in, the laughter of her son echoing through the halls, or the man who still looked at her like she was the most important person in the room. One evening, as they watched Noah play in the backyard, Emma turned to Daniel and said, "I was so scared you'd see me as a mistake." Daniel shook his head and squeezed her hand. "You and Noah are the best things that ever happened to me. Success used to mean numbers on a screen. Now it means coming home to you." Emma smiled, feeling the last traces of her old fears fade away. Sometimes life changes in the most unexpected ways, in quiet diners and hidden secrets. Emma's story wasn't about a waitress being rescued by a billionaire. It was about two people choosing responsibility, choosing love, and choosing to stand by each other when it would have been easier to walk away. And in the end, that choice, more than money or status, was what truly changed their lives.